statist lies.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Brock Lawley program. A little bit of a celebratory situation here. Let's pop the cork. Let's celebrate for a second because, yes, we did hit the pause button at the very least to the tyrannical, totalitarian, and yes, fascistic regime. Now, that does not mean that he's going to pull back on the reins by any means. He's a thug. The president is a thug. I have absolutely no confidence whatsoever that he cares about the will and the temperature of the political electorate. But without a doubt, although we have some hangers on, mainly in Arkansas, but no, we're going to have runoffs in too. The electorate had an amazing megaphone in their collective voting mouth yesterday. And it said, enough with the absolute and total off-the-cliff craziness of collectivism, of socialism, mainly leftism. We've had enough of it. It's a corpse. It's always been a corpse. It's just had some glitter and some Febreze sprayed on it the last few years, but that has certainly worn off. So today's news tackling will really focus on the election. I'm going to, deep dive the news, and for you political junkies, I'm going to give you what you want, which is to really find out what happened yesterday and tackle state by state and really realize the ramifications and the fallout of this election. Yeah, a big wave win for the GOP. Really, really, really significant. Looks like we picked up 7 officially now with the potential of 9. And that's to say nothing of just the trickle-down victory from, governorships to dog catcher. I mean, it was just a GOP wave. That's exactly what we had in 2010, too. And, of course, Obama broke another record, which is the first president in U.S. history to have this kind of opposition in both midterms. It's pretty remarkable. But, I personally really wanted Scott Brown to win. That was a long shot, but he really made it close up there. I think it had a little to do with the fact that he was helicoptered in there. And even myself, I think Scott Brown's a good man. He definitely would have represented that state much better than the lefty up there. But, you can't really blame the constituency because he did that whole Hillary Clinton thing where he helicopters in and he's not really a part of the state. He wasn't really raised there, etc. So you got that going on. Scott Brown didn't get across the finish line. But other than that, things looking great. It was a shellacking, full-on bend the left and the ideology of the left over the knee of the American people and just spank, corporal punishment style. Now, will Obama move to the center, which is pretty much the will of the American people? Obama is way, way off in the fringe left. He's not even a left. He's the fringe left. There's like 3 degrees, 3 shades of the coloring box of politics, and then you find Barack Obama hanging by a string of dental floss off the leftist crazy Marxist cliff. Now, will he come back to the American people? Well, I'm saying he won't. Doesn't seem likely. The president's an ideologue. But the American people have certainly given him plenty of reason to do so. With every indication, though, he plans on shoving leftism down your gullet with even more vigor and speed. A lot of races were supposed to be close, ladies and gentlemen, and weren't. Mainly Mitch McConnell and Pat Roberts. They weren't even close, among many others, by the way, but they all won handily. Real Clear Politics has a great breakdown, by the way. I think the real story of the election is Scott Walker. This is the shining beacon of conservatism. This guy's taken everything the left and the militants have thrown at him. Unions, all kinds of slander. Keep in mind, this guy has won 3 elections in 4 years. Half of the crap this guy's had to deal with shouldn't even be legal. I mean, they have the state attorney general hunting down people who support Scott Walker, issuing gag orders. The illegality in that is so thick. And still, the people of Wisconsin, ladies and gentlemen, this is cheese-eating leftistville. And even they realize this guy has done nothing but succeed, deliver on every single promise, and save that state from the black hole of leftism, which is more than we could say for California, and we're going to get to that. California is still the bog of eternal leftist stench. Some big upsets, especially among the governors, again, almost completely breaking right now. In my home state of Pennsylvania, Corbett went down in flames, but I kind of know the inside baseball baseball of that. Really mishandled some things. Specifically, by the way, for all my PA boys, specifically did not get out in front of Eddie Rendell's blunders. Eddie Rendell did not balance the books when he left. The economics were in shambles. He didn't have any of these promises that he declared by way of fiscal promises to everybody under the sun. He didn't have any of those guaranteed. That all fell in the lap of Corbett. He didn't do a very good job of maneuvering that political minefield, and he paid for it at the ballot yesterday. But other than that, huge upsets, almost all of them, the GOP in victory. And then there is California, yay, fresh out of jail, out on bail, leftist dreaming. Ladies and gentlemen, they're going down with the ship. They just have decided leftism is the arsenic for them, and they're dipping it in their little Kool-Aid drinks and throwing them back like shot glasses at a frat party. That's how they're going down. And what I find interesting about California is to just keep doubling down on this leftism. They're so in debt, billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars in debt, never to be paid back. And the people just decide, whatever, who cares? We're spending. Tie that millstone politically around my neck, throw me into the fiscal ocean. And here's my suspicion. By the way, you got Brown, who is a brown shirt Marxist, is really what Brown is, bought and sold. But here's what I think is going to happen to Cali and many of these sort of leftist bastions that have just sort of broken away from the temperature of the American people. Here's what I think is going to happen to them. They just think, hey, we're just going to spend and spend and spend. And when things get so bad, and they have, they've had rolling blackouts in California and all kinds of consequences to their fiscal insanity. Berkeley even. Here's what's going to happen. I think they're just going to expect the federal government to bail them out fiscally. So that means if you're in Kentucky, or if you're in Arkansas, or if you're in Texas, or if you're in Ohio, or wherever you are, where there's some sort of fiscal sanity, in other words, you're paying your bills, you're making sacrifices, you're not just blowing money and paving the streets in gold, figuratively, of course, well, you're going to have to take your money, and it's going to be siphoned from your state and given to leftist states that are run like a drunken Captain Jack Sparrow ship. So that's my take on what's happening. And of course, this is always what happens with leftism, right? It's a fairy tale land. And other hardworking people have to support it, subsidize it, prop it up. Mark my words, you're going to remember this guy on the Brock Lawley Show telling you, I think that's going to spark severe contention and major fractures in the country because, quite frankly, that's not right. So he's talking about fair. If you burn your house to the ground fiscally because you're spending like Paris Hilton 3 golden sloggers in, you should have to face the consequences of that. You shouldn't be able to siphon money from the federal coffers. Anyway, that's my take on that. But the big news is conservatism hopefully has a chance now. The GOP is not necessarily conservatives. So now we have to throw that hammer down on the GOP, hound them, keep these guys honest about shrinking the fat, enormous gut of the federal government. Slim fast, baby, slim fast. Shrink her down. Get her out of our way. But for the moment, we're going to celebrate this. Come on. Big win. Big win for the American people. This has been the Brock Lawley Show. CourageCulture.net for all the stories.
I want that Brock Lawley guy stopped immediately.
For links and summaries of all the stories, visit CourageCulture.net.